Hello, baby. Tonight, close your eyes gently and snuggle into your cozy bed because we're going on a soft and magical journey high above the world. This is the story of the castle in the cotton clouds. It's about a kind-hearted little girl named Lila who discovers a secret world floating far beyond the sky, a world made of fluffy clouds, glowing stars, and a castle hidden in the cottony mist. Each step of her adventure brings gentle surprises, warm-hearted friends, and soft lessons about kindness, courage, and wonder. Are you ready, sweet one? Let's begin. Once upon a time, in a quiet village where the wind whispered through fields of daisies and the trees swayed like lullabies, there lived a little girl named Lila. She had the biggest heart and the softest laugh. Her favorite thing in the whole wide world was lying on the grassy hill behind her cottage, looking up at the sky. She would watch the clouds float by and imagine they were giant cotton animals on their way to a secret kingdom. Maybe there's a castle up there, she would whisper to the butterflies nearby. A castle made of clouds and stars and dreams. Every night, Lila would dream of that castle. In her dreams, it shimmered like sugar in the morning light. The towers swirled gently in the breeze, and the doors opened with a hush like the sound of a yawn. She saw twinkling lights and floating bridges and creatures made of moonlight. But each morning when she woke up, the sky looked so far away and the castle was only a dream again. One day, something special happened. Lila was sitting on her favorite hill, holding her patchy old teddy bear named Mallow, when the clouds began to swirl in a way she had never seen before. They circled and danced like ribbons in the wind, and the biggest cloud of all dipped low, lower than ever before, almost brushing the tips of the wildflowers. Lila gasped softly. The cloud sparkled, as if the stars had dropped pieces of themselves into it. Then something truly magical happened. A ladder began to unfold from the heart of the cloud. It wasn't made of rope or wood. It looked like it was woven from moonbeams and feathers. It shimmered in the sunlight, each step glowing just a little. Lila felt her heart skip a beat. The ladder touched the ground softly with a sound like a sigh. She looked around. No one else was there, just the warm breeze, the swaying daisies, and the wide blue sky above. Mallow's button eyes seemed to sparkle with wonder, too. "Should we go?" Lila whispered. Mallow didn't answer, of course, but she imagined he nodded very gently. So Lila stood up, brushed the grass from her dress, and reached out to touch the ladder. It felt warm and soft, like a hug from her mother. She took the first step, then another, and another. As she climbed, the world below grew smaller and smaller. The fields became patches of green and gold. The houses looked like tiny dots. The sky wrapped around her like a blanket, and the wind whispered lullabies in her ear. Up and up she went, higher than the birds, higher than the tallest trees, higher than the clouds she used to watch, until finally she reached the top. And there it was, the castle in the cotton clouds. It was even more beautiful than her dreams. The castle floated gently, like it was resting on a sea of fluff. Its walls glowed with a soft golden light. Its towers curved like seashells. Little lights sparkled all around it, drifting through the air like sleepy fireflies. The drawbridge was made of braided starlight, and it opened with a gentle hum. Lila stepped onto the cloud. It was soft beneath her feet, springy and cool, like stepping on whipped cream. She giggled, her heart fluttering with excitement. The castle doors slowly opened. Inside was a grand hall filled with glowing chandeliers made of crystal raindrops. The air smelled like vanilla and sugar cookies. Everything was quiet, but not empty. The silence felt peaceful, like a lullaby waiting to begin. Suddenly, a tiny giggle echoed through the hall. Lila turned around. Floating down from a staircase of bubbles was the smallest, fluffiest creature she had ever seen. It looked like a puffball with wings, and it smiled with sparkling eyes. "Hello," the creature said in a voice as soft as marshmallows. "We've been waiting for you." Lila blinked. "Me?" The puffball nodded. "You're the dream finder. You're the one the castle chose." Lila didn't understand, but something in her heart felt warm and right. "What's your name?" she asked softly. "I'm Poppy," the little creature said, fluttering closer. "And this is your castle now." Lila's eyes widened. "Mine?" "Well, to care for, to explore, to keep full of dreams and light and laughter. But don't worry, you won't be alone." As if on cue, more tiny creatures floated in. Some looked like soft stars, others like fluffy kittens with wings. They chirped and cooed, surrounding Lila with gentle warmth. Poppy smiled. This is the beginning of your journey. There's much to learn and many places to visit. But first, you must rest. Every adventure starts with a dream, after all. And with that, Poppy led her to a room with a bed made of cloud petals and moon quilts. Lila climbed in, still holding Mallow close. Outside the window, the stars twinkled like lullabies. The castle hummed a gentle tune. Lila yawned, and as her eyes closed, she smiled. Because this time, the castle wasn't a dream. It was real. When Lila woke up, the soft light of morning streamed through the window, casting a golden glow on the walls of her new cloud room. Everything was calm and quiet, like the world was still dreaming. She sat up slowly, her arms wrapped around Mallow, and blinked at the gentle colors swirling in the air. Outside her window, the clouds moved lazily, drifting like boats on a peaceful sea. The castle seemed to hum with gentle magic, as if it knew she was awake and ready to begin. A soft tapping came from the door. It didn't creak or knock. It sounded more like the flutter of butterfly wings. When the door opened, Poppy peeked in with a sleepy smile. "Good morning, Dreamfinder," he whispered, floating inside on his tiny cloud wings. Lila smiled back. "Good morning, Poppy. Did you sleep well?" "It felt like I was sleeping on hugs," Lila said, giggling. Poppy clapped his little paws together. "Perfect. Then, you're ready for your first stroll through the castle." Lila slid out of bed, her bare feet touching the cool, soft floor. She followed Poppy out into a hallway made of mist and moonlight. Everything shimmered, but not in a loud or flashy way. It shimmered like a dream remembered just before waking up. As they walked, gentle music floated through the air, the kind of music that feels like warm cocoa on a chilly day. The walls were decorated with glowing pictures that moved ever so slightly, paintings of floating gardens, starlit lakes, and animals made of light. Each of these pictures shows a different part of the cloud realm, Poppy explained. The castle is only the beginning. Lila's eyes sparkled. "There's more?" "Oh, yes," Poppy said, turning a corner. "But before we fly out to explore, there's someone special you must meet." They reached a large round door covered in swirls and sleepy stars. It opened with a gentle sigh, revealing a tall room filled with soft cushions and the scent of lavender. In the middle of the room stood a grand chair shaped like a crescent moon. Sitting in it was a figure with a long robe made of midnight and eyes like lanterns in the dark. "This," whispered Poppy, "is Lady Serena. She's the keeper of dreams." Lady Serena stood slowly, her movements like drifting snow. Her voice was smooth and kind. "Welcome, dear Lila," she said. "We have waited many nights for the child with wonder in her heart." Lila bowed shyly. "I'm happy to be here." Serena smiled and held out her hand. In it glowed a tiny crystal star. "This," she said, placing it in Lila's palm, "is your dream key. It unlocks the paths between the clouds. It only works for those who believe in gentle things." Lila stared at the glowing key. It pulsed softly, as if it were breathing in her hand. Serena leaned close. "Your first journey will take you to the Meadow of Murmurs. There you will meet the whispering sheep. They carry old dreams in their wool and know the secrets of the sky." Lila looked at Poppy. He nodded with excitement. "Come," he said. "Let's find the skyboat." They stepped out onto a round balcony where a soft breeze curled around them. Waiting there was a delicate little boat made of cloud threads and beams of light. It hovered just above the edge, tied with a ribbon of stardust. Lila climbed in with Mallow beside her. Poppy fluttered to the front and tapped the dream key gently against a crystal dial. The boat began to rise, drifting smoothly into the open sky. Below them, the cloud castle slowly disappeared into the mist. Ahead stretched endless fields of drifting fluff, sparkling streams in the air, and golden beams of morning sun. The wind brushed Lila's hair, and the boat hummed like a lullaby. After a while, greenish clouds began to appear, soft tufts tinged with the color of grass and sunlight. The boat drifted lower, and Lila saw patches of glowing flowers growing from the clouds, their petals moving slowly as if they were breathing. "We're here," Poppy said gently. "The Meadow of Murmurs." The boat landed with the softness of a feather. As Lila stepped out, she heard the faintest sounds, tiny voices humming and whispering, like a song sung far away. Then she saw them. Dozens of fluffy white sheep with swirly wool that shimmered in the sunlight. Their eyes were kind and round, and they moved slowly, their hooves making no sound at all. One of the sheep walked over to Lila. It was larger than the others, with soft gray wool and a silver bell around its neck. "Hello, young dream finder," the sheep said in a sleepy, soothing voice. "I am Elder Woolsey." Lila blinked. "You can talk?" "Only in places where dreams grow," Woolsey replied with a smile. "Come walk with us. The meadow has much to show you." As Lila walked beside the sheep, she noticed tiny lights caught in their wool, little flickers like fireflies. "What are those?" she asked. "Old dreams," Woolsey said. "Some belong to children who no longer remember them. Others are dreams that haven't been dreamed yet." Lila reached out and touched one of the lights. It floated onto her hand and burst softly into a picture, a little boy dreaming of flying with stars. "That one's still growing," Woolsey whispered. They walked deeper into the meadow. Lila saw dream flowers that played soft melodies and floating fruit that giggled when touched. Everything felt gentle and magical. Woolsey led her to a large round nest made of clouds. Inside was a bundle of glowing wool. "This is where we weave dream threads," he said. "Would you like to try?" Lila nodded eagerly. She sat beside the nest and gently pulled a bit of the wool, watching it spin into a thin, golden thread. It shimmered in her hands, humming quietly. As she wove, a picture began to form in the thread, a little girl in a blue dress climbing a ladder into the sky. "It's you," Poppy whispered. "You're making your own dream." Lila smiled softly, her heart full. Woolsey placed a fluffy paw on her shoulder. "You have the gift, child. You see dreams even when you're awake." Lila felt something stir in her chest, something warm and full of light. The meadow swayed around her. The sheep hummed. The dream flowers sang. And above, the sky turned a deeper shade of gold, as if evening was quietly tiptoeing in. As the sky deepened into a gentle amber glow, the meadow of murmurs grew even more serene. The air was filled with a hush, the kind that only happens just before bedtime, when the world seems to hold its breath and everything becomes soft. Lila sat quietly in the nest of cloud wool, her hands resting on the golden thread she had just finished weaving. It glowed gently, the image of her own journey flickering like a memory told in whispers. Woolsey nudged her side with a warm smile. "You've done something wonderful today, little one. Your first dream thread. Would you like to carry it with you?" Lila nodded, and Poppy fluttered down, wrapping the thread into a tiny star-shaped charm. He tied it to a silken ribbon and fastened it around Lila's wrist. It shimmered faintly, as if singing a secret lullaby only she could hear. "Come," Woolsey said softly. "There's still something you must see before you go." He led them across the meadow to a gently sloping hill, where the clouds were softest and the murmurs were strongest. The whispering sheep followed, their wool rustling like pages of a bedtime story. At the top of the hill stood a tall, ancient tree made entirely of mist and moonlight. Its leaves glowed in pastel shades, pale blues, soft pinks, and sleepy purples. Each leaf chimed gently as the wind passed through. "This," Woolsey whispered, "is the tree of tucked-in tales. Every leaf holds a story, a bedtime memory, a dream told to the stars." Lila stepped closer. The tree felt warm, as if it had been hugged 1,000 times. One of the leaves drifted down and landed in her hand. As she touched it, she saw a vision. 2 children cuddled under a blanket, listening to their grandfather tell a story about a sky whale who sang lullabies. She smiled, eyes twinkling. "It's so gentle." "Yes," said Woolsey. "The softest dreams always find their way here. They rest in the branches, waiting to be remembered again." Lila looked up. The branches swayed, and more leaves drifted down, each one carrying a hush of stories waiting to be heard. She wished she could stay here forever, in the soft hum of dreams and the rustling of remembered tales. But the sky was changing once more. Above them, the first evening stars began to twinkle. A gentle chime rang out from the horizon, the castle's way of calling her home. Poppy fluttered close. "It's time to return. But don't worry, you'll come back again." Lila hugged Woolsey, pressing her cheek into his warm wool. "Thank you for the stories. They're yours now," he said kindly. "Take them wherever you go." Lila climbed back into the skyboat with Poppy, Mallow tucked beneath her arm. The boat rose softly, like a balloon lifted by a breeze, and began drifting toward the castle. As they floated higher, the meadow grew smaller below, glowing like a lantern in the night. Lila watched until the sheep were just tiny white dots in a sea of green clouds. and the tree of tucked-in tails looked like a silver brushstroke on the sky. The boat moved quietly, the only sound being the gentle whistle of wind and the occasional chime of stardust brushing past. Poppy turned and looked at Lila. "There's something I need to show you back at the castle," he said, his voice quieter than usual. "Something only the dream finder can see." Lila leaned forward, curious. "What is it?" He didn't answer just yet. Instead, he guided the boat toward a part of the castle she hadn't seen before. As they approached, the towers shimmered more brightly, their lights blinking like sleepy eyes. They landed on a round balcony made of polished moonstone. A curved door stood ahead, wrapped in soft ivy that sparkled with tiny stars. Poppy touched the door gently, and it opened without a sound. Inside was a tall, round room with no ceiling, just the night sky above. The floor was made of glassy mist, and floating above it were orbs of light, each one gently pulsing like a heartbeat. "What are they?" Lila whispered. "Dream seeds," said Poppy. "Each one is a dream that hasn't found a dreamer yet. They're waiting for someone with a kind heart to carry them into the world." Lila stepped closer. The orbs glowed in shades of silver, pearl, and soft rose gold. As she reached out, one floated into her hands. It was warm and comforting, like holding a cup of warm milk. "This one," Poppy said, "is meant for you." The dream seed shimmered, and Lila saw a tiny scene unfold within it. Herself, standing on a mountaintop above the clouds, spreading her arms as glowing birds flew around her. She looked up at Poppy. "What do I do with it?" "You plant it," he whispered. "In someone's heart, maybe someone who has forgotten how to dream, or someone who needs a little light." Lila felt her eyes grow misty, not from sadness, but from something tender and deep. She hugged the dream seed close to her chest. Poppy nodded. "For now, let it sleep. You'll know when it's time." The night deepened around them. Soft stars glowed above, and the orbs drifted gently like floating wishes. Lila felt her eyelids growing heavy, the day's magic slowly folding around her like a blanket. Poppy led her back to her room, where the bed of cloud petals waited, cool and quiet. Lila tucked Mallow under the covers and placed the dream seed on her nightstand, where it shimmered like a nightlight. As she lay down, the castle sang its soft lullaby once more. And in her heart, the glow of the dream seed pulsed gently, keeping time with the hush of dreams and the slow, tender rhythm of sleep. When morning tiptoed into the castle in the cotton clouds, it didn't shout or shine too brightly. It arrived like a yawn, stretching across the sky with a golden sigh, turning the clouds into soft peach and honey. In her room of drifting light and petals, Lila stirred beneath her moon quilt, eyes blinking slowly open as the dream lullabies faded into the waking hush. Mallow was already awake, propped gently on her pillow with a faint sparkle in his button eyes, as if he, too, had dreamed something lovely. The dream seed still sat on the nightstand, glowing like a candle left for starlight. A soft knock, like the patter of dewdrops, sounded at the door. "Come in," Lila whispered sleepily. Poppy floated in, his tiny wings catching the sunlight and scattering it like bubbles. He held a small tray with a cup of warm cloudberry tea and a slice of starlight toast, crispy on the edges with a swirl of honey that shimmered in the center. "Breakfast for the bravest dream finder," he chimed gently. "Today's journey will take you higher than ever before." Lila sat up, her heart fluttering like a feather. "Where are we going?" "To the lofting library," Poppy said, placing the tray on her lap. "A floating library where every book is alive and each page whispers when you turn it." Lila's eyes grew wide. "Books that whisper?" "Oh, yes," said Poppy with a giggle. "They tell their stories in voices as soft as dandelion seeds." After breakfast, Lila dressed in a gown woven from sunrise threads, light and floaty like a breeze. Poppy led her down a spiral staircase of drifting feathers, out to the skyboat waiting at the balcony, already humming with quiet excitement. The boat lifted smoothly into the morning sky. The clouds parted in gentle swirls, and Layla could see the world unfolding beneath them. Glimmering rivers in the distance, puffs of dream forests, and glints of sleeping stars resting in the mist. As they rose higher, the clouds grew thinner and paler until the air around them sparkled like powdered snow. And then in the distance, Lila saw it, a magnificent structure floating above even the highest clouds. It spun slowly, like a carousel in the sky. The lofting library. It looked like a great orb of soft crystal, wrapped in ribbons of golden ink. Its walls were made of clear cloud glass, showing shelves that curved and floated in layers like rings around a planet. Gentle flutters of paper drifted through the air, some carrying whispers, others humming softly like bees in bloom. As the skyboat approached, a bridge of folded parchment unfurled, guiding them toward a round door carved with tiny symbols that glowed as they passed. Inside, the air smelled of old dreams and fresh imagination, like the pages of a book you love and the thought of a story not yet told. Lila took a breath. "It's beautiful." A soft rustle answered her. "Welcome, dear reader," said a voice, as gentle as the turning of a page. Floating toward her was a tall figure in a robe made of scrolls and quills. His beard was long and flowing, threaded with bookmarks and ink stars. On his shoulder sat a tiny owl made of folded paper. "I am Master Quillon," the figure said with a slow bow, "keeper of the lofting library." Lila curtsied shyly. "I'm Lila." Master Quillon's eyes twinkled. "Ah, yes, the dream finder. Come, come. The books have been waiting for you." He led them through the library, past rows of floating shelves and drifting lanterns made of glowing paragraphs. The books fluttered open as she passed, their pages rustling gently in greeting. Some books whispered lullabies. Others told poems in soft voices. One book flapped around like a butterfly before landing gently in Lila's hands. It opened to a page that shimmered, revealing a story about a brave rabbit who built a home out of songs. Lila read silently, feeling the words brush against her ears like a breeze. She turned another page, and the book gave a little sigh of happiness. Poppy smiled. "Books love to be read here. It makes them feel alive." Master Quillon gestured toward a grand spiral of floating platforms leading upward. "Would you like to see the dream shelf?" Lila nodded, curiosity twinkling in her eyes. They climbed gently from one floating page to the next, rising higher into the heart of the library. At the very top was a quiet space, wrapped in a warm glow. Here the books were larger, softer, and wrapped in silk. "These," Quillon whispered, "are the first dreams. Stories from the beginning of the sky. They are kept safe and only opened by those who truly believe in wonder." Lila reached out to one. As her fingers touched the cover, it opened with a soft sigh, revealing a story written in starlight. The words rose into the air, dancing in curves and curls. Lila didn't just read it, she saw it. A child sailing across a night river in a boat made of lullabies. Moonfish swimming beneath. A night breeze guiding the way. She felt the story wrap around her, warm and safe. "Will I write stories like these someday?" she asked softly. Quillon nodded, his voice a hush. "You already are. Every step you take, every dream you weave, every kindness you share, it all becomes a story waiting to be told." Lila felt her heart glow. The dream key around her neck shimmered brighter. Just then, a tiny fluttering book drifted toward her. It was smaller than her hand, with pages made of twinkling dust. "It wants to go with you," Poppy said. Lila cupped it gently. The book pulsed like a heartbeat. "It's a dreamling," said Quillon. "A baby story. It will grow as you do. Someday it will become something beautiful." They descended quietly, and Quillon walked them back to the parchment bridge. "Remember, Dreamfinder," he said, "your heart is your library now. Keep it open, keep it kind." Lila nodded, holding the dreamling book close. As they sailed away, the lofting library spun softly behind them, its pages drifting like petals in the sky. The dreamling nestled in her hands, warm and light, and all around, the world whispered. The boat drifted gently through the hush of the afternoon sky, floating like a dandelion seed on a breeze. Lila sat quietly, her arms cradling the tiny dreamling book that had chosen her. It pulsed faintly with warmth, like a little heartbeat against her palms. Mallow rested beside her, his button eyes watching the shifting clouds, and Poppy hummed a quiet tune as he guided the boat toward the next path. After the lofting library, the sky felt even more mysterious, as though it were waiting to show her something special. "Where are we going now?" Lila asked softly, her voice as light as the wind. Poppy looked back and smiled. "To the Bubble Glade, a secret place where laughter lives." Lila tilted her head. "Laughter?" "Yes," he nodded. "Bubbles born from joy drift there and gather in quiet places. They carry the giggles of the world, lost, forgotten, or waiting to be shared." The words made Lila's heart flutter with something between wonder and a tickle. She leaned over the edge of the boat, watching the clouds swirl below as the sky around them brightened into soft tones of peachy orange and pale lemon. Soon, They reached a part of the sky where the clouds formed a wide, misty field that shimmered like soap film in sunlight. Floating through the air were thousands of bubbles, some big, some tiny, each one glowing faintly with a color of its own. The air smelled of sugar plums and honeysuckle. The bubble glade. The boat settled at the edge of the field, and Lila stepped down carefully, the cloud beneath her feet puffing gently with each step. The bubbles drifted around her, bouncing softly against her arms and cheeks. Each time they touched her, she heard a sound. Not quite words, but giggles. Giggles like those of a child who'd just been tickled, or the warm laugh of someone hearing a funny story before bed. She giggled too. One bubble, large and golden, floated near her face. Inside, she saw a tiny image of a kitten sneezing into a flower. The bubble giggled, and so did she. "Oh," she said, covering her mouth with delight. "They're memories." Poppy nodded beside her. "Yes, joyful memories. Some from long ago, others from dreams yet to come. The bubble glade is where they rest before finding someone to share them with." Lila walked deeper into the glade, bubbles swirling all around her. Each one was like a feather, so gentle, so light. She lifted one in her palm and watched as it played a memory of a boy blowing raspberries on his baby sister's belly. The sound of laughter drifted from it, pure and bright. Suddenly, from a hill made entirely of misty pillows, a group of soft creatures came bounding toward her. They looked like little cloud bunnies, with round bellies and long, silky ears. But instead of feet, they bounced on tiny bubbles, squeaking and giggling as they moved. "Who are they?" Lila asked, eyes wide. "They're the Giggle Puffs," said Poppy, "caretakers of the laughter." One of the Giggle Puffs tumbled to a stop in front of her, smiling with rosy cheeks. It held a tiny bell made of crystal sugar and rang at once. From the air, a pink bubble floated down and popped gently on Lila's nose. She burst into a laugh. "That one was from your second birthday," Poppy whispered. "You had frosting on your nose and thought it was snow." Lila covered her mouth, her laughter soft and sparkling. The Giggle Puffs squealed with joy and danced in little circles. Then, one of the bubbles floated down slowly and hovered near her heart. It was quiet and dim, its color a soft gray with a hint of silver. Lila touched it gently. Inside, she saw a girl sitting alone on a rainy day, her chin resting on the windowsill. She looked sad, but not hopeless, just waiting. Poppy floated closer. "Not all laughter is loud. Some bubbles hold quiet joy, the kind that waits patiently to be remembered." Lila nodded. "Can we help her smile again?" "That's exactly what the Dream Finder does," Poppy whispered. "She brings forgotten laughter home." The Giggle Puff with the sugar bell held up a tiny jar made of moon glass and offered it to her. Lila cupped the gray bubble and carefully placed it inside. As she did, the bubble shimmered just a little brighter. "You'll find her," said the Giggle Puff softly, "when the moment is right." Lila tucked the jar into her cloud bag beside the Dreamling book and her star thread bracelet. They walked a little farther until they reached the center of the glade, where a great bubble fountain shimmered. It wasn't made of water, but of laughter itself, bubbling up in waves of color and light. Children's giggles, gentle chuckles, even the sleepy laughs of a baby's dream flowed in a steady rhythm, rising and drifting through the sky. Lila sat on a bench made of curled mist and listened. Each bubble was a note in a lullaby only the heart could hear. "This place," she whispered, "feels like a tickle and a hug at the same time." Poppy fluttered down beside her. "Because joy, when soft and true, is the most powerful kind of magic." They stayed for a while longer, watching the Giggle Puffs gather the bubbles and sort them into glowing nests, ready to send across the world. As the sun began to dip, casting peach and lavender across the sky, Poppy gently called her back to the skyboat. Lila looked back once more at the shimmering glade. A few bubbles followed her to the boat, dancing in the air around her head like farewell kisses. As they lifted into the twilight sky, she leaned against Mallow and whispered to the jar in her bag, "One day I'll find you, and we'll laugh again." The bubble glade faded behind them, soft and glowing, and the sky, wide and waiting, open to whatever gentle wonder would come next. The evening sky had turned a dreamy violet, brushed with silver streaks that drifted like whispers across the horizon. The skyboat glided softly through the twilight, its sails catching the quiet winds that only blew when the stars began to yawn. Lila sat nestled between Mallow and Poppy, her cloud bag resting on her lap, the tiny jar from the bubble glade still glowing faintly beside her dreamling book. The air was cooler now, touched with the scent of sleepy flowers and night blooms that only opened when the world began to hush. Above them, the first stars blinked into view, gentle and golden, as if stretching after a long nap. Poppy turned to her with a tender look in his eyes. "Tonight," he said, "you'll visit the Moonlight Menagerie." Lila tilted her head. "What's that?" "It's where all the nighttime creatures go when they're done watching over dreams," he said softly. "They rest there under the moon, safe and calm. You'll like them. They're gentle and kind, and they always know when someone has a good heart." As they approached, the sky around them shimmered darker yet softer. They passed through a curtain of glistening mist that tinkled like wind chimes, and suddenly they entered a clearing in the clouds, an enormous glade lit only by the moon above. And oh, what a moon it was! It hung low and full, round as a lullaby, its light pouring down like honeyed milk. Beneath it stretched a meadow of sleeping silver grass that glowed faintly with every breeze. Nestled in the glade were creatures of all shapes and sizes, each of them magical, each of them made for dreams. The skyboat landed with a sigh, and Lila stepped onto the glowing grass. The creatures looked up, blinking slowly, then resumed their peaceful resting. None of them seemed afraid or startled. They seemed to know her already. She walked gently, Mallow tucked in one arm, her cloud bag swaying at her side. Around her, she saw dream deer with glowing antlers curled beside pools of stardust. Near a tree made of gentle moonbeams, a pair of owlbears nuzzled together, their feathered wings draped over each other like soft cloaks. One creature, tall and velvet black with star spots on its back, rose and approached her. It had the face of a deer, the tail of a comet, and the eyes of 1,000 quiet nights. "Dreamfinder," it spoke in a voice low and warm. "Welcome." Lila curtsied softly. "Hello. I am Luma," said the creature, "keeper of the menagerie. The guardians here are resting. We guide dreams when the night is long and protect them when the skies are heavy." Lila walked beside Luma, eyes wide with wonder. The glade was filled with gentle sounds, soft snores, the quiet rustle of wings, the occasional coo of a dream bird. She noticed that some of the creatures had threads tied gently around them, golden, silver, and rose-colored strings that shimmered faintly. "What are those?" she asked. "Dream links," Luma replied. "They connect a creature to a dreamer they once visited. When a child dreams of something gentle and kind, a creature follows the thread to keep them company." Lila's gaze softened. "Do the threads ever break?" "No," Luma said with a peaceful smile. "Even when forgotten, even when a child grows older, the thread remains. It becomes part of the sky. It holds the dreams safe until they are needed again." They passed a pond where moonfish swam in lazy loops, their scales glinting like tiny mirrors. Lila knelt by the water, her reflection glowing. Beside her, Mallow looked too, his soft, stitched face smiling back. Suddenly, a tiny creature floated down from the branches above. It looked like a miniature fox made of clouds and stars. It curled in midair and landed in Lila's lap, letting out a sleepy sigh. "She's called a starlet," said Luma. "They only rest on those who carry calmness in their hearts." Lila smiled, stroking the starlet's soft fur. The creature's little body hummed, and a thread of light grew from her side, one end wrapping gently around Lila's wrist. "A new bond," Luma whispered. "Tonight, she will rest by your side." They continued walking until they reached the center of the menagerie, where a great nest made of moon feathers and sky branches stood. Around it sat the elder creatures, those who had guarded dreams for thousands of nights. There was a lion with a mane of northern lights, a swan with wings like wind, and a bear made of clouds so soft it looked like a blanket. The bear rumbled gently. "Child, do you bring a dream in need of care?" Lila reached into her cloud bag and pulled out the moon glass jar from the bubble glade. The soft gray bubble still shimmered gently inside. Luma took the jar and placed it in the center of the nest. The elder creatures closed their eyes. For a moment there was silence. Then the lion's mane glowed, and the swan sang a note so pure it made the stars blink. From the jar, the gray bubble slowly turned silver, then lavender, then pale rose. The image inside changed. No longer a lonely girl, but one smiling, holding a stuffed bear, looking out at the night sky. "She remembers," Luma said gently. "The joy was never lost, only sleeping." Lila felt warmth bloom in her chest. Around her wrist, the dream thread pulsed gently as if nodding. The starlet curled tighter in her lap. Poppy fluttered close and said nothing, his eyes already misty with joy. Luma bowed. Tonight, Dreamfinder, you helped a forgotten joy awaken, and for that, the menagerie will always walk with you. The moon began to lower, and a breeze whispered through the glade, carrying the scents of wildflowers and bedtime songs. It was time to return. Lila rose slowly, her starlit companion still sleeping softly in her arms. The elder creatures gave a gentle hum of blessing as she walked past. Back in the skyboat, she settled in as Poppy untied the sails. As they lifted into the starlit air, she looked down one last time at the Moonlight Menagerie. A place of peace, of protectors, of dreams kept safe in stillness. And above it all, the sky stretched open, silver and velvet, filled with stars that seemed to whisper her name. The sky was as quiet as a lullaby, and the stars hung low like sleepy lanterns guiding the skyboat home. Lila leaned back, her fingers gently stroking the fur of the starlet curled in her lap. The tiny creature purred softly, glowing with the light of freshly remembered dreams. Mallow was tucked under her other arm, his stitched smile ever present, while Poppy steered the boat with calm precision, wings fluttering like pages in the wind. Tonight, the clouds below them drifted slowly, thick and gentle like cream, glowing with the hush of bedtime. Lila could feel something different in the air, something more ancient, more mysterious, as if the sky was holding its breath. Poppy turned to her after a while, his voice softer than usual. "We're close now, Lila. The next place is older than the castle itself." She looked up, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's called the Echoing Grove," he whispered. "A hidden cloud forest where the voices of kind wishes go to live." Lila sat up straighter. "Voices? Whispers from hearts," Poppy said. "Every wish spoken with love finds its way there, even if it's only a whisper before sleep." They flew deeper into the clouds until everything turned silver blue and still. The skyboat passed beneath a great arch made of woven stars and glimmering threads. Beyond it, the clouds thickened and formed towering shapes, tall trunks of mist, canopies of shimmer, and leaves that flickered like wind chimes in moonlight. The Echoing Grove. They stepped off the boat onto a path made of pressed starlight and dew. The ground beneath Lila's feet shimmered softly, and with each step, a faint sound echoed around her, like someone's voice from far away, gentle and familiar. At first, it was hard to understand the whispers. They drifted in and out like the breeze, but soon she began to hear them clearly. "I hope she always knows she's loved," one voice said. "Please let my little brother have sweet dreams tonight," whispered another. A tiny voice, soft and trembling, echoed through the leaves. "I wish I could keep my stuffed bunny forever." Lila stopped, her heart warming. "Are these wishes?" Poppy nodded. "Every kind wish ever made. They live here, growing stronger with time. They never vanish. They echo forever." The path wound through the grove, and above them, silver butterflies flitted through the branches, their wings whispering forgotten hopes. The trees leaned in slightly as if listening, their trunks pulsing softly with light. Lila paused before a hollow tree. Inside, a soft golden glow swirled. She peeked in and saw floating words suspended in the air. "I wish my mama's sadness would go away." She reached out, touched the glow, and it turned pink, then rose, then floated up into the sky. Poppy whispered, "When a dreamfinder touches a wish, it's gently awakened and sent forward, in case it finds the light it needs." As they walked, the whispering grove thickened with color, hues of lilac, pearl, and the palest green. The sounds grew clearer, kinder, wrapped in warmth and longing. Then they came to a clearing. In the center stood a great tree unlike any other. It was taller than the cloud castle, with roots like soft ribbon and branches that reached the stars. Hanging from its limbs were thousands of tiny lanterns, each one holding a glowing whisper. They blinked softly, as if breathing. "This," Poppy said with awe, "is the heart tree." Lila stepped closer. One of the lanterns drifted down and hovered before her. Inside was a single word, peace. The lantern glowed brighter as she held it, then slowly floated back up into the tree. Luma's words echoed in her mind. "Even when forgotten, the thread remains." A gentle voice rose from within the heart tree. "Lila," she turned, startled. "Who?" "It's the grove," Poppy said with a smile. "Sometimes the heart tree speaks when it finds someone who truly listens." The voice continued, warm and slow. You carry many wishes, Dreamfinder, not just your own. You carry the soft ones, the ones whispered in quiet rooms, the ones sent to the stars by children with sleepy eyes. Would you like to plant a wish of your own? Lila's hand went to her cloud bag. She pulled out the little dreamling book, the dream thread bracelet, the moon glass jar, now glowing with hope, and finally she placed her hand over her heart. I wish, she said gently, that no child would ever feel alone in the dark. The heart tree pulsed. One of its lanterns floated down, opened like a flower, and wrapped around her words. The lantern turned golden and slowly floated up, joining the others. As it rose, the other lanterns began to glow brighter, like a chorus of dreams joining in harmony. Then softly, the lanterns began to sing, not with words, but with warmth. It was a lullaby without sound, felt only in the heart. The starlet in her arms stirred gently. The cloud leaves swayed. The whispers around her seemed to quiet, as if bowing in respect. You've given the grove a new light, Poppy whispered. They sat beneath the heart tree for a long while, listening to the hush of kindness echoing all around. When it was time to go, the tree bowed gently, its lanterns flickering in a slow, graceful dance. Back in the boat, Lila looked over her shoulder at the shimmering grove fading into the mist. The sky stretched above, wider than ever before, and as they drifted away, she carried the warmth of the wishes with her, a soft promise glowing in her chest, humming like the very heart of the clouds. The stars above the skyboat blinked in sleepy patterns, like a lullaby written across the heavens. Lila sat with her arms wrapped around Mallow, her starlet nestled beside her chest, and her eyes gazing into the deep quiet of the sky. After the echoing grove, her heart felt full and still, like a teacup holding warm honey. Poppy floated silently at the helm, the sails catching slow gusts of night wind. He looked back once with a gentle smile, then turned forward again, guiding the boat toward the softest clouds on the horizon. These clouds didn't drift or swirl. They stood still in the air, glowing with a golden light that shimmered from within. They rose like hills and valleys, and in the middle of them all was a great dome of light, like an enormous lantern resting on the world. We're here, Poppy whispered. This is the cradle of light. Lila blinked. It's glowing. It always glows, he said. It's the oldest light in the sky, the place where every daydream begins. As the skyboat floated gently to a landing, the light from the dome spilled over them, soft as candlelight on sleepy cheeks. They stepped off the boat and onto a path of glowing glass, surrounded by clouds that shimmered like golden silk. The dome was enormous, round as a planet, and warm to the touch. The walls seemed to breathe like the chest of someone resting. As they approached, a doorway unfolded from the center, blooming open like a flower made of dawn. Inside, everything glowed. It was not the kind of light that hurt the eyes. It was tender and calm, like the memory of being held. The cradle of light was vast and round, and within it floated thousands of glowing shapes: feathers, stars, toy boats, butterflies, buttons, and soft orbs of swirling light. They moved slowly in the air, drifting in spirals as if dancing to music that only they could hear. What are they? Lila asked. Daydreams, said a voice, old and kind. From the center of the dome floated a being made of soft beams and sparkles. It looked like the shape of a gentle elder, with robes of sunlight and eyes like golden mirrors. Around them danced tiny sparks that seemed to giggle and hum. I am Aurelia, the being said, caretaker of the cradle. Welcome, Dreamfinder. Lila gave a little bow. I didn't know daydreams had a place of their own. Oh, but they do, Aurelia replied. When a child stares out a window and imagines flying with birds, when someone doodles stars in a notebook and thinks of faraway lands, when a heart drifts into hope in the middle of an ordinary day, that's a daydream. And here's where they sleep until someone finds them again. Lila walked slowly through the dome, watching the shapes float past her. One tiny orb drifted close. Inside, she saw a child imagining their bedroom as a pirate ship sailing across a sea of pillows. Another orb held the image of someone imagining they could shrink down and live inside a teacup. They're so small, she whispered. Small but powerful, said Aurelia. Daydreams are gentle beginnings. They grow when nurtured, and someday they become ideas, adventures, and even love. Lila reached out and touched one, a delicate paper crane made of sunbeams. It twirled in her palm, and she felt a warmth rise up her arm, like a thought just starting to form. Would you like to nurture one? Aurelia asked. Yes, Lila said without hesitation. Aurelia smiled and summoned a strand of light. It weaved itself into a small basket, and into it floated a glowing seed. This one has not been dreamed in many years, Aurelia explained. It was imagined by a lonely child who once believed they could make friends by planting a garden in the clouds. Lila stared into the seed. It pulsed gently, flickering like a firefly. She placed it in the basket with great care. How do I help it grow? You listen to it, said Aurelia. You speak kindly to it. You imagine with it. And most of all, you believe. Lila nodded, and the seed seemed to glow brighter. Poppy hovered close. We can visit the Garden of Possibles. It's not far. It's where planted dreams first bloom. Aurelia touched Lila's forehead with a beam of golden light. This daydream now belongs to your heart. If you nurture it well, it may one day light the way for someone else. They left the cradle with slow steps, the glowing dome behind them casting long, sleepy shadows across the clouds. Lila sat in the skyboat with the basket in her lap. The daydream seed pulsed steadily, like a soft drum beat guiding her forward. As the boat rose again into the sky, she looked back once at the golden cradle, now distant, glowing faintly like the sun beneath the sea. Then she looked ahead, toward the place where dreams begin to bloom. And in her heart, something small and shining began to stretch and stir, quiet but full of promise. The sky around the boat shimmered with soft colors, like petals falling in slow motion. Lila sat quietly, her hands cupping the small basket that held the daydream seed from the cradle of light. It pulsed like a sleepy heartbeat, its glow growing just a little brighter every time she whispered a thought to it. I wonder what kind of flowers grow in the clouds, she said gently, mostly to herself. The seed flickered. Poppy heard her and turned his head from the front of the boat. You'll see soon. We're almost there. Ahead of them, the clouds parted to reveal a wide, floating garden that stretched farther than Lila could see. It wasn't made of soil or stone. It rested on a thick layer of plush, drifting clouds, blooming in colors that didn't exist anywhere else. The plants glowed faintly, some twinkling like stars, others trailing soft light as their petals swayed. This was the Garden of Possibles. As they landed, a breeze whispered across the blossoms, and Lila heard faint giggles and sighs coming from the leaves and stems. She stepped out of the boat with her basket, taking in the scent, like sugar drops, moon pears, and warm pages of a favorite book. A small, fluttering creature zipped through the air and landed beside her. It looked like a dandelion puff with tiny wings and a smile that curved like a crescent moon. Hello, it chirped. Welcome to the garden. I'm Nib, your garden guide. Lila giggled. Hello, Nib. Follow me. Nib twirled, leaving behind a trail of glittery pollen. We have a very special plot waiting for your seed. Lila followed him down winding cloud paths lined with blooming wonders. Trees with books for leaves, flowers that changed color when spoken to, and vines that hummed lullabies. Every plant here had been born from a wish, a hope, or a daydream like the one she now carried. They arrived at a small clearing framed by glowing moss and tall whispergrass. In the center was a round, quiet patch of cloudbed, glowing gently in soft blues and rose golds. This is it, Nib said, hovering above the spot. Plant your dream here, and the garden will do the rest. Lila knelt beside the cloudbed, lifted the glowing seed from the basket, and cradled it in her palms. You're going to grow into something beautiful, she whispered. With great care, she pressed the seed into the soft cloud soil. It sank in slowly, glowing even brighter as it settled. The ground beneath shimmered, and a tiny spiral of light rose from the spot like a breath. The earth around the seed began to hum gently. Little sparks danced in the air above it, and the whispergrass bent slightly toward the glow. It's responding, Nib whispered in awe. It's already dreaming of becoming. Lila sat back, her eyes wide with wonder. What happens next? The garden listens, said Poppy, landing softly beside her. Every word, every thought you share with it helps the seed become what it was meant to be. Lila leaned forward and whispered, I hope you bloom into a place where lonely hearts feel like they belong. The glow pulsed. She stayed by the plot for a while, speaking softly to the planted seed. She told it stories of her journey, the ladder of clouds, the whispering sheep, the lofting library, and the heart tree. With every story, the light around the seed deepened in color, its glow becoming steadier, stronger. Then something magical happened. A sprout emerged, not green, but silver lavender, with soft shimmer lining its tiny leaves. It unfolded like a sigh, stretching upward toward the starlit sky. "Oh," Lila breathed. The sprout shimmered once more, and a single petal bloomed. In its center was a tiny reflection of a child hugging a teddy bear under a sky full of clouds. "It's blooming a memory," Poppy said softly, "a dream becoming real." Nib danced with joy. "It's beautiful. It's becoming a comfort bloom." "What's that?" Lila asked. "A flower that whispers calm to those who need it," Poppy replied. "When it's fully grown, its petals drift through the sky, finding hearts that feel small and helping them grow big again." Lila reached out and touched the soft petal. It felt like velvet and hope. "I want to plant more," she whispered. "And you will," said Poppy. "Every act of kindness you carry becomes a seed. Every quiet courage, every soft word, every gentle laugh, it all becomes something new." Lila looked around the garden, where other plots were glowing, blooming, and resting. She saw a child's dream of a castle made of music, a floating treehouse full of giggles, and even a little pond where paper boats carried wishes. Nib tugged at her sleeve. "Come, there's one more thing." He led her to a circle of stepping stones that hovered just above the cloud bed. In the center stood a curved mirror made of stardust and silver. When Lila stepped before it, she saw not just herself, but her reflection surrounded by soft light, tiny floating seeds, and glowing threads connecting her to the sky. "That's your garden spirit," Nib said. "It shows how many dreams you've helped grow." Lila stared, tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. It wasn't flashy or grand. It was warm, steady, kind. She turned back to her little sprout and knelt once more. "Grow strong," she whispered. "The world needs you." The petals rustled as if answering and released a soft sparkle into the air. It floated up, catching the breeze, rising into the sky, a comfort bloom's first lullaby. As the boat lifted once again, carrying her from the Garden of Possibles, Lila held the memory of her growing sprout close to her heart. She knew it would bloom, again and again, sending pieces of peace to those who needed it most. And somewhere far below, someone dreaming alone would smile, not knowing why, but feeling just a little more held by the sky. The sky had grown soft and dark, brushed with sleepy silver as the stars gathered overhead like old friends. Lila sat curled in the skyboat, her starlet resting peacefully in her arms, Mallow tucked snugly beneath her chin. The boat glided smoothly, not fast, not slow, but at the perfect rhythm of a bedtime breath. Poppy didn't speak. He only looked back once, gently, and nodded, as if to say, "You've done so much, and now it's time." Ahead, the clouds began to glow with a familiar shimmer. The spires of the cloud castle came into view, wrapped in moonlight and quiet. The drawbridge of braided starlight lowered as they approached, opening with a slow, welcoming hum. The skyboat came to rest on the soft cloud landing, and the wind whispered in tones only dreams could understand. Lila stepped off, her heart full and steady. The castle felt different now, not because it had changed, but because she had. The halls glowed gently with soft lanterns, and the air carried the scent of warm vanilla and stardust tea. Each step echoed with quiet joy, not loud or proud, but like a song remembered from long ago. She passed the hallway of floating portraits and saw her own image, newly added, hovering softly among them. It showed her standing in the Garden of Possibles, her arms outstretched to her sprouting dream. Poppy led her through the winding corridors, up a spiral of cloud steps, until they reached the tallest tower of all. At the top was a room she hadn't seen before. It was round, open to the sky, and filled with every soft thing one could imagine. Cushions made of whisper foam, books that glowed with gentle laughter, and windows that showed the dreams of sleeping children, scattered across the world like stars. Lady Serena stood there, her robe of midnight flowing like water. She smiled as Lila entered. "Welcome home, Dreamfinder," she said. Lila stepped forward. "Is this the end of my journey?" Serena shook her head with the gentlest smile. "Not an end, a beginning that's come full circle. Tonight, you've seen what it means to carry light, to give warmth without needing to shine, and now your castle is ready." "My castle?" Lila asked. Serena raised her hand. The walls of the tower shimmered and began to shift. Slowly, the room opened into a vast chamber filled with clouds in every shape and color. Castles, gardens, rivers, and ladders, all waiting to be dreamed. "You are now Keeper of Wonder," Serena whispered. a guardian of stories. The castle in the cotton clouds belongs to you now. You may fill it with whatever dreams you choose and send them out gently into the night. Lila stood still, awash in quiet awe. Then she reached into her cloud bag and took out everything she had gathered: the Dreamling book, the star thread bracelet, the moonglass jar with its glowing joy, the comfort bloom basket, and the memory of every place she had touched with kindness. She placed them in the heart of the room. A glow rose from the center, soft, slow, and golden. From it, a light spread outward, filling every corner of the castle. The walls breathed, the floors shimmered, the towers rang like bells muffled in mist, and far below, all across the sleeping world, dreams began to stir gently in the hearts of children. Some laughed softly in their sleep. Others clutched their teddy bears closer. Some turned on their pillows and smiled without knowing why. Poppy fluttered beside her, tears in his eyes. "You filled the sky with comfort, Lila." She reached down and lifted her starlet, placing it beside a tiny window overlooking the stars. "Can I stay here?" she asked Serena. "And keep dreaming for others?" Serena nodded. "For as long as you wish." Lila curled up on the softest cloud cushion near the window, Mallow in her arms. The wind drifted through the tower like a lullaby, and the stars winked in rhythm. The castle, now glowing with her own gentle magic, hummed like a cradle. Outside, a little girl in another part of the world dreamed of climbing a glowing ladder into the sky. A boy imagined reading a book that whispered stories into his ear. A tiny bubble of laughter escaped someone's lips in their sleep. And high above, in the castle in the cotton clouds, the dream finder rested at last. Eyes closed, heart full, wrapped in wonder, and gently, gently the world turned toward morning.